One of my favorite hadith is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that صلوا الله العفو والعافية فإن أحدا لم يعط بعد اليقين خيرا من العافية. He said, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for afu, pardon, and afiyah, being in the state of well-being, and sometimes it can specifically refer to good health. So he said, ask Allah that you be of those who are pardoned, and ask Allah that you always be in the state of afiyah, well-being. فَإِنَّ أَحَدًا لَمْ يُعْطَى خَيْرًا مِنَ الْعَافِيَةِ بعد اليقين. For no one is being given any blessing after achieving certainty better than being in the state of well-being, afiyah, good health. And good health is something that is maybe initially granted to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then the maintenance is upon us. So inshallah, this evening we are kicking off our program. Program is to, inshallah, adopt a healthier lifestyle, a more prophetic-like lifestyle, something that is closer to the teachings of our deen lifestyle, inshallah. And a pleasure to have Dr. Qureshi with us today, who is an endocrinologist. Did I say that right? Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Okay. And inshallah, we'll be talking about, maybe specifically about diabetes, but that is part of the larger health challenges that we may face. So inshallah, with this, love the fact that we have local talents in our community who are also willing to come and share their knowledge and their expertise with us. So we appreciate your presence here today, and inshallah we look forward to this presentation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Closer.
Can you hear me? Is it good?
No.
No? How about now? Is it good? Okay. I think I'm not used to that.
Okay.
So thank you, Sheikh, for taking the initiative of this healthy living series. So today, I was asked to present diabetes, and it goes into the healthy living program the Dr. Sheikh Fazaga is going to lead and implement or try to get the community to engage in. So it's not an extensive diabetes, pathophysiology, drugs. It's a very general discussion to get the community engaged and for community to realize how big an epidemic this is. So before COVID epidemic, there was an epidemic called diabetes epidemic, and it has been going on for a long time. And it still stays. COVID may be going away, but the diabetes epidemic is here to stay. So this is more about the epidemic and awareness about this epidemic. So the discussion would be light, and I would try to cover some basic topics with emphasis on how common it is. So we would talk about the prevalence, which is a medical lingo for how many people have it. Then we would talk briefly about the different types of diabetes, how we diagnose and what the symptoms are for the general population. If you have any of those, seek your medical physician. Then briefly about complications and treatment, general treatment. I won't be going to specifics, drugs or so specific, we leave it to your doctors. And then a lot of emphasis on pre-diabetes and prevention of diabetes, because remember, if once you're diabetic, it's a one-way ticket. We want to prevent it before happening. And that's the stage called pre-diabetes, and I would go into that briefly. And then finally, risk factor, we have a calculator here. We can give it to the audience, which tells you, are you at risk of diabetes or do you have it already maybe, okay? So let's start. So this is a map and some numbers. So how common is diabetes in America? Now I'm talking about the American population, American data. So it is 1 in 10 Americans is diabetic. So 1 in 10. That's 10%, kind of rough number. Now, this does vary by state. So if you look at Tennessee, now we are a bit more unhealthy state. So we love our grits and we love our fried chicken. So we have about maybe 15% in Tennessee. Now, some places may have 8%. Dakota and Montana, it's much less. But in America, generally, it's 10% of 1 in 10 is a diabetic. But more so essential is that of the 10% who are diabetic, about 1 in 3 may not know they're diabetic. So there may be people sitting today in this audience who are diabetic and don't realize they are diabetic. So you may think you're normal, but if you check the sugars, it may be high. So 1 in 3, plus minus, diabetics do not realize they're diabetics unless the sugars go very high and they get clinically symptomatic. The pre-diabetes I'm going to come back to later on. Now this is a map. Now I cannot show it that good from here, but this is just to show you, because you know like Sheikh Faqih, I think he's gone. He would say, Jama'ah, we are from this globe represents us, right? So most of us came from different parts of the world. So now how many cricket fans here? So I see one hand, or maybe a couple of hands, cricket fans. So if you look at the Indo-Pak, which is I think red in that map. Straight? Okay. So you can tell I'm not a singer, so I have no idea how to hold the mic. So the Indo-Pak, over the next 2 decades, the prevalence of diabetes is going to go up by maybe 80%. I think 67%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, 68%. So for the cricket fans in Indo-Pak, the prevalence is going to go up by 68%. Okay, not a big deal. Now, how many soccer Egyptian fans here, Middle Eastern fans here? Muhammad Saleh, how many? Middle East, right? So in Middle East, it's going to go up by 87% over the next 2 decades. So 87% increase in the diabetes. Now I'm saying it because ethnically we are like them. So that's what our risk is. And then the last part is Sadio Mane. How many fans from Africa, right? So now your chances are almost above 150% increase over the next 2. Now this is again in Africa, but it applies to ethnically to us too. So meaning it's very, very common. It's getting commoner for us. Change it? Okay. I was trying to avoid looking weird, but I guess I have to. I just have big ears, that's all. Okay. So, is it good? Clear? Okay. So the next map is the same thing, but in different ways. So this is how much common it is now, as of now. So if you look at America, we knew it's 10%, 1 in 10, right? But if you look at let's go with the Pakistan and maybe Egypt and Sudan and Saudi Arabia, right? It's 12% and above. That's very, very common. Right? So this is what it as of now. So every 1 in 10 is a diabetic. And then you look at the next color, which is mostly I think the red one. And that's about 10%, 9 to 10%. So again, the message is it's common. And it's common amongst us because we represent this map. So very, very common and getting worse. Okay. Now, again, that's the same information in a different way. And if you look in the middle part, and it tells you that the diabetics in America, about the population in America is 23% minorities, right? Hispanics, Asians, the local, the Native Indians, all of those. That's 33%. And in those, it's not 10%. So an Asian in America is going to be 20+%. So the Pakistanis living in America, it's 20% of them are diabetics. Same thing with the Asians. Same thing with the Middle Eastern and Africans. So it's very, very, very common in our ethnic population in the whole, our congregation here. So again, same thing goes for the old, the folks which are above 65 years of age. So it was 1 in 10, again, general population. Anyone above 65, it's 1 in 5. So 1 in 5 for an American. Now, obviously, for you, if you're ethnically diverse, it's probably much more than 1 in 5 for all of us. So it's very, very, very prevalent. So the message is it's common, and it's coming your way, basically. Now, just a brief map of America, and basically the darker the color, the more common diabetes slash weight gain or obesity, right? So they go hand in hand. So you can see that it's going to get darker and darker. This is 2004, not long, that time ago. I mean, this is recent history. So this is 2000 and 9. You can see how dark it is. Look at where we are, Mid-South. So we are really in the hotbed of this epidemic. Now remember, diabetes epidemic. It may not be COVID, but definitely it's epidemic. It's very common. This is 2014. Look at that. We are becoming a big nation, a big nation. And then we have 2019. And I don't have 2022, but look at that. It's all red. It's all purple. And look at us. We're way ahead of the curve. So very common. Now, very briefly, so for the non-doctors, so diabetes could be type 1 and the type 2. Not type 1, usually we see in kids, but it can happen in any age. Not type 1, we cannot prevent. That's qadar Allah. It happens, it happens. So if a child becomes a diabetic or adult, that's, there's nothing we can do to prevent it. Again, it's less common. The majority bulk is the later half of the slide. That's type 2 diabetes. Now, that is linked to weight gain and lifestyle. And that is preventable. So type 2 is a preventable disease. Just like with the COVID, mask on, wash hands. Type 2, you do the same, similar measures, diet and exercise and weight loss. You can prevent it. It's not a given thing. So symptoms, so if you have these symptoms, then you may actually have diabetes already. So it could be anything from thirsty all the time, having to go to the bathroom to urinate, getting up in the middle of the night many times to urinate. For a child, if you have a child, he's going to the bathroom, you go on the trip and he says, where's the bathroom every 2 hours? Then he may have type 1. A little kid, if he's filling the diaper up all the time, he could be diabetic yourself. If you're going to the bathroom and thirsty, you could be diabetic. Then it could be also, again, I have trouble looking from here. It could be wound healing, delayed wound healing. It could be increased appetite, thirst, hungry and losing weight. He's eating all the time, ravenous appetite, but he's losing weight. And tired, exhausted. These are all symptoms of diabetes. So if you have those, then it may be too late for you. Now, how does your doctor diagnose diabetes? So that's just a overall overview of the diagnosis. So the green is good, the yellow is bad, and the red is really bad. Right? And there are 3 ways we can check you for diabetes. We can do an A1C. That's a test which tells you the average sugar for the past 3 months. So one test. It's a grade. Did you pass? Did you fail? Or are you barely passing? If you're, and you can see the number is 5.7 below your normal. So the key to remember is that the diabetes doesn't happen overnight. So you don't go to sleep and you get up diabetic the next day. So it's a continuum, right? So if I don't watch myself today, in 10 years, I'm going to be a diabetic. So meaning, if I'm seeing a diabetic today, the story began 10 years ago, right? So you go from normal to pre-diabetes, the orange, to the red, which is diabetes. So it's a progression. Now, the key is, once you hit the red, you're done. Like I said, you have gone under the dark side, or the sweet side, so to speak, right? So that there's no coming back. But in the yellow and the orange, you can come back. So you can kind of become normal. You can go pre-diabetes. So if you do lifestyle, lose weight, you can become normal again. Or you may not have progressed to diabetes. So you don't have to go to the dark or the red, the sweet side, so to speak. So why bother? What's the commotion? Well, if you're diabetic, then you can get lots of complications. So diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness in America, so in the developed nations. So most blind men and women in America probably are diabetic. It is the #1 cause of dialysis in America and most of the Western nations. It is probably not the most common, but every diabetic has a 1 in 2 chance of dying from diabetes. So every diabetic I see in my clinic, so every second of them is going to be dead from heart attack or stroke. Okay? And also a very common cause of legs, feet taken out or taken off and having leg damage. So what do we do? Again, not medicines, but what can we do to either, if you are diabetic or if you want to not become, so you do simple things, the whole emphasis of this program, that you eat healthy, you stay active, and obviously you see a physician to manage your diabetes. So healthy eating, staying active is going to save you from or help you if you're diabetic. So Now, donuts, they probably don't belong today. So, Sheikh, did you put this slide in? No? Okay, so someone put it in, obviously. So, well, so what is this? What do you guys see? Donuts, right? They're good. How many are they? 6, okay. So, question, how many servings do you see? 1 or 6? Or 2 servings? So this is 6 servings, right? There's not 2 or 3 or so. So the take-home message from this slide is that, it's what you eat and how much you eat. Okay? So maybe 1 donut is okay. But you can't have 3 at a go. And almost all of us tend to have more than 2. So now the pre-diabetes. Now, again, remember, if you've gone to the dark side or sweet side, no coming back. So all emphasis is on pre-diabetes. Now, diabetes is common, pre-diabetes even more so, right? Now, pre-diabetes, you can kind of switch it to obese or overweight too. Similar. Because, if you're overweight, you're pre-diabetic, you're probably going to have some weight issues. So how common it is? The number was 37%. For the 37 million for the diabetics, 96 million, which is almost 1 in 3, or more than that, American is a pre-diabetic or can be a is almost pre-diabetic. So it's very, very, very common. Okay, and again from the slide, it's more than 8 in 10 could be a pre-diabetic. Now I bet, and remember, this is American Caucasian population. I bet with the diversity we have, I bet there are many, many people in this room who are pre-diabetic, don't realize it. If you check everyone, you're going to see many, many pre-diabetics, not very unhappy people today. So very common. Again, the point being that we can prevent it from happening. Pre-diabetes is reversible. It's preventable, just like COVID was. So we need to do everything we can to stay either in the green or not progress from the orange to the red. And just for the moms and dads and for the youth here, so just like I told you that it's very common, it's also getting a lot more common in the young population. So before, when I was a fellow, or maybe before, a child was a type 1 unless proven otherwise. So that was a given thing. But by the time I was done, we were seeing kids with type 2, 9 years old, were type 2, 10 years old. And now it's almost common. And you can look at the numbers. I probably run one of the slides. So the type 2 is becoming, I probably can go back. So I mean, it's becoming more common to be or not more common, but a very common thing for a young child to be a diabetic, or a pre-diabetic. So again, you can see on one side the normal, then pre-diabetes, you're progressing, story has begun, and it ends at diabetes. That's when you end up seeing us or the doctors. And what can you do? So the other thing to remember is, so pre-diabetes as a condition, yes, it can lead to diabetes, so fair enough. But the pre-diabetes also has high chance of having heart attacks and stroke. So so if let's say you stay pre-diabetic, you're fine, your sugar's slightly high, but you're going to still get more strokes and heart attack than a normal person. So it's still a bad thing to be in. You want to really come back to normal. And so that's the initiative the Sheikh is trying to do, is cut the diabetes in half. So if you can do lifestyle changes, if you're normal or if you're pre-diabetic or if you're at risk, you can cut your chance of going into diabetes in half, 50%. And what do you need to do? So again, that's just a fun fact slide. So eat healthy, be active, and lose weight. Simple thing. Be active, eat healthy, and lose weight. And to give you some numbers, so if you can lose maybe 5 to 10%, 5% of your body weight, you can reduce the chance by 58%. So for a 200-pound person, it's 20 pounds or maybe 10 pounds. So 10 pounds to 15 pounds is all you need. You don't need to become Sadia Mane or Muhammad Salih. You just need to be a little bit healthy. 10 pounds is all you need, and you're going to be fine. You can cut the risk in 58%. So I think with this, I'm going to. So we do have this. Sheikh, I have the forms if someone wants to give out. So this is basically a a risk score for the population. So you fill out, and it would tell you, hey, if you need to see us tomorrow or you're okay. So, and you guys can come to the table and then, and it just goes by. Then, how old are you? If you're, you get a certain point for that. A man or a woman, you get a point, 1 point for being a man. Then, if you have been gestational diabetic as a woman, you get a point. Then, if you have family history means your mom, dad, brother, sister, and maybe a child. Child doesn't apply. So you get 1 point for that. And if you have high blood pressure, 1 point for that. Are you physically active, inactive, and then your weight. And the weight, you can do the BMI. So this half of the slide, or the form is BMI. And BMI basically weight and height. You put them together, get a BMI. And if you're 5 and above means either you're diabetic already, you're pre-diabetic already, or you're heading there. So you do something. And so, and the take-home message is basically that diabetes is coming your way. You could be up next. And number 2 take-home message is we can prevent it. And I think that's the last slide.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Nauman. And so inshallah we'll open up for questions inshallah before we go into our initiative. Relationship between diabetes and sugar consumption?
None. Just joking. So obviously, high calorie intake is going to lead to diabetes. So, like the donuts, obviously. So, a lot could be said. So, if you have more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight and you're going to become a diabetic. So, unhealthy diet definitely is a bad thing. And a lot could be said, glycemic index, the type of food you're having. Is it a low glycemic index? Is it high glycemic index? But yeah, so high glucose intake is not good, obviously.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Please.
How bad is carb in relationship to diabetes? So we talk about sugar. How about carbs?
So carbs.
How bad is carb in relationship to diabetes?
So carbs, you can, again, very simply put. So carbs you could divide into 3 different types. So not every carb is created equal, right? So you have and the way I look at it, so you have the man-made carbs or non-man-made carbs, which are God-made carbs, right? So you can tell, so who made pasta? We did, right? Who made bread and cookie? We did. So who made carrots? I didn't, right? Who made apples and fruits? I didn't. So the first category is the vegetables, the greens, anything vegetable except potato. That's okay, you can have it. Broccoli, salad, lettuce, you can have as much as you want. Then fruits, probably okay if you're a healthy person and an active person. And the last category is where you get dinged. So that's the man-made carbs, the cookies and the cakes and the bread and the pasta. That's where the killer is, because we just don't make like nature does. So that's a very simple description of carbs. So yeah, so the first 2, okay. Last one, limit. Remember, 1 donut, not 5. Have less. Please.
Once you hear complications of the diabetes, which we call end organ damage, could that be, once you have a complications of the diabetes like end stage damage, organ damage, could that be improve or get better with the better control of diabetes, or what can we do once you diagnose and you already have it, or you have it for a few years and you develop a complications? How can you improve those complications? Kidney disease, gastroparesis, all of those, how could that be improved?
Okay, so a very simple answer, maybe a bit technical, but so the glucose, the slide I showed you, and maybe I can go back to the slide. So the 5 complications I mentioned are, so we have the eyes, the kidneys, and the feet, right? So these we call small vessel disease, right? And the other 2 are the big vessel disease, the heart and the stroke. So the small vessel disease you can minimize or, lessen if you get the sugars down. So let's say you have some kidney disease or you have eye damage. You can bring your sugars down and minimize those. The other 2, maybe not so. There are a lot more other things. So microvascular, you probably can improve some if you get your sugars down And that's why the retinopathy and nephropathy, if you get it, you really want to clamp down on the sugars and do the best you can, along with blood pressure control too. So I hope I answered it.
We have a question here, just so that we can all hear you, inshallah.
Pre-diabetes under prescription, stay forever and using or?
You know, so it's a loaded question. So can you stay on the, remember, once you become a it's a one-way ticket. So you're gone on the other side. The story began, you already lost the game. So do you have to stay on the medicine? You know, it depends. If you do very well, you lose weight, you really reform yourself, I mean, you can come off, but most people, most doctors would not take you off the medicine. Because remember, once you, the body's very adaptive. So once you have become a diabetic, you already lost half your insulin production capacity. So you're all lost. So most doctors would keep you on the medicine. Why? Because then the goalpost changes. Because the diabetes progresses. So one pill becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 5. On an average, about 10 to 15 years, you become insulin dependent. So we may keep you on the pill just so you don't progress. So then we're trying to change the game. We're trying to delay the insulin for a long time to come. But you know, if you do good, and you know, if you do good, then you may come off pills.
For women, for gestational diabetes, once she gets the gestational diabetes, can she get back to normal, or is that a problem?
So majority can become normal. So most gestational diabetics would become. So gestational diabetes basically is the diabetes which happens during when the mother is expecting. So some women, obviously the high risk ones, ethnicity minorities with family history, with a little bit of weight, when they get pregnant, they become diabetic. So that's gestational diabetes. Most of the time, gestational diabetes would go away after you have had the baby, okay? But if you get gestational diabetes, you're high risk for future diabetes. It's not a given, but you're high risk. So some women may become diabetic eventually, many don't. So no, if you do well, you may be fine.
So once your diabetes is well controlled, A1C is close to 6.5 or even lower, what is the likelihood of it's converting into the insulin requiring diabetes after a few years or in future?
You know, so the only data we have is from a trial which was done in Britain 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the question is, if you're 6.5, what's the chance of becoming insulin dependent? No, I don't have numbers, but I would say that, you know, the lower you get, the less likely you may progress. So I don't think I know the numbers exactly, but so it's like a slippery slope. If you're slipping down, you're going to slip fast. If your A1C is 12, then you're probably going to. And you know, example I give is, and this is a very lay example, but that's what what the data shows. So the moment you're diagnosed with diabetes, remember the story began 10 years ago. So the moment you became diabetic, half the beta cells are gone, maybe more than half. That's the cells produce insulin, right? So an example is you have a factory, you have 10 people working for you, right? And you gave them double the work, right? So by the time you became diabetic, 5 already had left. So you have 5 people working for you now. Now guess what? They had double the work, right? So if the sugars are high, you're going to lose them more often. They're going to leave you, right? So if you keep the A1C down, then maybe you may prolong the beta cell reserve. So I don't have numbers exactly, but 6.5, you're doing your best chance. So you should be fine. And we see it all the time.
And those new injectable agents like Ozempic and Mounjaro, how does that work, and do you still need the oral if you are on those injectable forms?
I think it depends. So if your A1C is good on one agent, GLP, there are a bunch of drugs he's talking about, which once a week you must have seen commercial on TV. So it depends. If your A1C is 6.5 on one drug, you're fine. But if you're high on 3, then you need the 4th one. So you keep adding till you bring it down. The key is to keep adding till you bring it down. So if you're good on A1C 6.5 on injectables, you're fine. So some drugs actually slow the progression, some don't. Most drugs don't. So there are only a handful of drugs which actually slow the progression, like the Actos, or the people with physicians may know. ACARB was another one. The ACE inhibitors. So these are the three which delay the progression, so to speak. Others just make it normal. Yeah, I mean, they're good drugs. I mean, I think there's different ways to do the same thing. So every drug has a plus and a minus. So we use it often. These the new agents, the injectables, they make you lose weight. The sugars come down. They make you eat less. So in the right person, that's a good drug. If you have weight issues, it may help you.
Is it safe to assume that, mashallah, the kids back there have a lot of sugar going on right now? Inshallah, with all that noise that we are hearing. Okay, so Jazakallah khair, Dr. Nauman. Here is the initiative, and here's what we want to do. So basically, a lot of us are at risk. I actually took this yesterday. I did find out that I am at risk of developing diabetes. And what we want to do is that we want to have a collective movement. Number one, initially we want to lose weight, but ultimately, you know, diet is a lifestyle. It's not something that you just do right now to lose weight, and that is the end of it. And here's what we're proposing. We're proposing that we have a mark by the end of the year. If you choose to join the program, inshallah, 2 ways of gauging improvement. Lose 20 pounds, 5% of your body fat. And we have about, till the end of the year, we have about, 60 some days, almost a little less than 70 days. I don't know how many days we have before that. Okay, 15 plus 75 days. 75 days to lose 20 pounds. That is less than half a pound a day, which is very doable and possible. And what we're proposing is we will have the workouts, inshallah. We do have several activities that are taking place during the week. They include cycling on Saturday morning, and I believe Sunday morning now as well. We have 2 days now. Cycling at 7:30 most of the time, 7:30 a.m. You can join, and I know that a lot of people have been joining in that group, mashallah, tabarakallah. There is a WhatsApp group for cycling, and basically you drive to wherever the meeting is. Sometimes it's at Shelby Farm, sometimes it is in different places, but these rides are usually really, really nice rides. For those who prefer cycling, that happens on Saturdays as well as on Sundays. We also have an instructor that will be leading our groups, and that's going to be on Tuesday. And this is Devon. Devon is a new convert. He is a bodybuilder. And inshallah, he will be leading us in exercises, making sure that we use our body weight in order to help us do that. This happens on Tuesday. So our first meeting is going to be this coming Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. an hour before Isha. We also have volleyball on Fridays. We have soccer on Sundays. And then we're also adding 1 day walking, jogging, inshallah, who's Dr. Umar Siddiqui, who's recovering from an ankle injury, inshallah. He'll be leading us in that group. In addition to that, we are also introducing the soup of salad on Mondays and Thursdays, bringing back the sunnah of fasting 2 days a week. A lot of people have been talking about intermittent fasting, and all of a sudden, you know, everybody got so excited about it. They suggested that you fast 2 days a week, and of course, we Muslims jumped on it and say, well, that's part of the sunnah, that's part of the sunnah. It only became a nice sunnah when the white man approved of it, because that is how we like to do, that's how we like to do things. And don't get offended, but the reality of it is we get excited, you know, when we get these validations. All of a sudden, the sunnah is nice, the sunnah is good, and we want to scream that 1400 years ago the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, suggested that. Now you can have all of this, but it turns out that you can have these initiatives, but when people don't pay money, what happens? What happens when we don't pay money? We don't take it serious. So here is the challenge. The challenge is you sign up for the program. By the end of the year, if you have not lost 20 pounds or 5% of your body weight, you are promising to make a donation of $500 to MIC. And I promise you, MIC is going to be rich, inshaAllah, ya Rabbal Alameen. Okay? Now, we're doing this a reversed way. Because the way that people do this properly is that people actually pay the $500. They say that I want to be in this program. They pay the money up front. You get your money back if you met the conditions. And if you did not, the money is gone. But that is really the idea. And the reason why we're doing this way is, like we said earlier in the khutbah today, if you want to walk fast, you walk by yourself. But if you want to walk far, walk with other people. So now there is a sense of accountability. There is, a monetary potential damage involved in the process if you don't do this. But this is really, really what we want to do. Okay? I weighed myself today, and boy, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was shocking how much I weighed. So when I took this test, I read it again, and if you score 5 points or higher, you are at risk of diabetes. And my score was 7. Taking age into consideration, taking height into consideration, weight into consideration, family history into consideration, being a man into consideration, then what happens is the only time I got 0 is when it says, are you physically active?
You're also for not being pregnant.
Okay, I did get 0 for not being pregnant as well, yeah. So now, what happens is, that just puts you at, people like me at risk. But also added to that, the region that I came from. You remember the map that showed, don't be offended by this. But if you ever, when I was thinking about this initiative, I would sit by the masjid, by the entrance, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I really was doing it. As people walking in, I was looking at your tummy, and MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Some of us, the tummy walks into the masjid, and like a week later, the rest of the body comes in, okay? And that is not good, people. That is really, really not good, okay? So what you do is, as people walk in, you get an idea of who's coming to the masjid. And most people who come to the masjid are what? Males. Give yourself a point for that. Over 40. Give yourself another point for that. Overweight. Give yourself another point for that. Or if you're Asian or African or Hispanic descent, we'll give yourself another point. Without even knowing you, without taking this, a good number of us are already at risk. I loved what Dr. Qureshi said. It is preventable. It is preventable. And that's what we want to do. That is, inshallah, what we want to do. We want to, develop, and we want to adopt a healthier lifestyle, inshallah. All right. So some of you are going to be forced into this program, and some of you are going to volunteer to be in this program. I have 10 people that I know. I'm just going to give them this piece of paper and say, you are in this program whether you like it or not. And I think they know who they are. So let's just do this the easy way. Raise your hands. That is 1. That is 2. That is 3. That is 4. That is 5.
Clark also.
MC, Sir Clark is here. That is 5. The other 4, you know who you are. That is, look at that. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. This program is going to be so nice, ya Shabab. 15 people. Sisters can also participate, by the way. I've been getting messages wanting, please convince my husband to join the program. Yes, please. So this is for the people who are joining. Please make sure that you put your name and phone number, inshallah, so that we will have. So I forgot to tell you. So on Tuesday, inshallah, when we meet at 7:30, we will meet with both the nutritionist and the instructor, the aerobics or the workout instructor, inshallah, at 7:30. So when you come, please come in also ready to do some, light workout in the process, inshallah. So that is the initiative. Okay? And like I said, the program is also open for the sisters. For the sisters, we do have a sister who is an aerobic instructor, and they'll be using the old building, inshallah, to do their workout. But then again, the walking around MIC, of course, is available all the time for the people. Now, what is interesting about this program is this, which is really important. You cannot outrun a bad diet. You can do all the exercise that you want, but ultimately, eventually, the most important part is going to be limiting intake. Some of the intake has to be eliminated. Some has to be taken in moderation. And some, we may need to cut down for some time, but inshallah, we will learn more about this when we have the nutritionist talking to us about what it means to be healthy, inshallah. Are we all good? Come on now, say it like you mean it, inshallah. Are we all excited? Are we all going to be losing weight? Liars, liars, liars. Okay? So inshallah, if you have taken a paper, please remember that by virtue of you taking this application, you are saying, I am joining this program, that I promise that by the end of the year, I will be losing the 20 pounds or the 5% of my body fat. So inshallah, on Tuesday, we'll also have Dr. Sean, the Muslim clinic, will be helping us. So when you come in, your glucose, what is that called?
The glucometer, yeah, we can check the glucose, blood pressure, and weight.
The glucose is going to be checked. So you will be poked a bit, take your blood pressure as well. And most exciting, we are going to weigh you, mashallah, tabarakallah. And we're going to find out how much you weigh. And if it works as we are planning it to be, inshallah, and I'm really excited to learn about this. So I guess it is old, but I just found out about it. That also what is going to be told to you is your fat composition. You'll be there, and we can actually find out how much fat there is in your body as well. So you'll be given the blood pressure, the glucose level, the weight, and also the fat composition. And the point here is that we want to make this serious. Okay? We want to make this serious because the idea is, we don't want it to just be another program, but we really, really want it to be a good program. And we want to hold each other accountable. We want to encourage one another, inshallah. Isn't that nice? Come on, say it like, is this nice or not, man? This is really nice. For those who have, mashallah, are blessed. Have you tried to lose weight before? Anybody here tried to lose weight before and failed? What was the reason for your failure? You succeeded. 20 pounds, mashallah. Why did you fail? Why didn't it work out?
Just the lifestyle.
Okay. What about you? What happened to others? Why were we not successful? I couldn't maintain it. I lost it, but I could not maintain it.
Alhamdulillah, the khutbah was fantastic. The lecture Nauman gave was also excellent. So I lost weight, Sheikh, by not snacking between dinner and breakfast. So I take my dinner 6:37 and I don't eat anything until 9 o'clock. And I'm active in the morning, 6, 7, 8, gardening, walking. And I lost 12 pounds in 3 months, and I'm maintaining it. So I want to share that. That's intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
That's intermittent fasting. It works.
So and I feel like I can confess to this group now that we are a family, inshallah. My biggest problem is what I do after I leave the masjid after Isha. That is like my biggest problem. Put the kids to sleep, and then you know what happens next. So that's been my issue. Okay, so yeah. 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 I think the difficulty is going to be in the first few days. One time, astaghfirullah, and please don't do this, I swore by Allah that I will not have carbs for 10 days. No carbs, no sugar. I was going insane. I did not find, I found out that sugar is in everything. Everything has sugar. Hot dogs have sugar. Soup has sugar. Milk has sugar. You name it, it is almost in everything that we consume has sugar. And initially, you actually become very, very irritated because your body is so used to it. We are addicted to sugar. And that was very difficult for the first 3-4 days. It was actually, I was not a pleasant person to be around. So inshallah, please make sure that you are here on Tuesday, 7:30, an hour before Isha, inshallah. We will meet with the instructor. We will meet with the nutritionist. Dr. Nauman is going to be there. Muslim Clinic is going to be there. We'll receive all, these services, inshallah, in hopes that what we find out is good and that we maintain the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, inshallah, ya Rabbil Alameen. Okay? All right, anybody interested in taking this just to see if you are at risk or not? Okay, we do have extras, please.
So I'm joining just for the Jama'ah. I am more than professional doing
Ya Allah, it's a very simple, I'll tell you.